Welcome back to our last panel, which is devoted on the intelligent government topic, which we are working on at Gate Institute, and it will be on disinformation. So it's my pleasure to introduce the moderator of the panel, which is Kalina Boncheva. She is leading the research group on disinformation in Gate Institute, and also she is leading the natural language processing group in University of Sheffield. And she's very well-known researcher in the field. So, Kalina, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you for the introduction, Sylvia. It is my real pleasure to be chairing this panel today on disinformation in the Balkans. And we have a wonderful lineup of speakers. So I just wanted to say very briefly why we think that it's really important to study disinformation in the Balkans specifically. First of all, the citizen susceptibility is among the worst in Europe. Then we are seeing a lot of disinformation, as you will hear from the speakers, which is anti-NATO, anti-EU, pro-Russian, and also some specific ethnic minorities like Roma are also impacted by disinformation. So all of this, in a way, it's different types of disinformation that is being circulating in the Balkans, and I think we'll touch on that as well later in the panel. Until very recently, there was a lack of independent fact checkers in Romania and Bulgaria. You will see that, you'll hear the good news that actually this has changed for Romania and is about to change for Bulgaria. So this is really, really good news, and you'll see and hear also about some of the intelligent disinformation analysis tools that are being developed within the We Verify project that it has been kindly funded by the European Commission. However, this project and the tools were funded initially to focus on the sort of Western languages of English, German, French, and it is our next goal through these kinds of alliance of interested researchers and parties to seek ways to further this and get some funding to customize and make this technology available also to researchers in the Balkans to do the research in the local languages and be able to study the local narratives. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Dr. Alberto Robikin from the European Commission, who will tell us first about the measures that the European Union is taking towards tackling disinformation. Alberto, please, welcome. I think you can share.
Yes. Thank you, Kalina. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me. And I think, as you said, it's really important that we all together, support this fight against disinformation. And this is why, since the beginning, the European Commission has implemented a strategy that involves that through a multi-stakeholder approach. Let's say it's a strategy that started back in 2017 when we started to have a high-level group on disinformation that informed the Commission through a report about the problem and propose possible solution to this problem. Following that the work done by a high-level group, the Commission issued a communication in April 2018, where for the first time he developed a overarching strategy against disinformation. And since then, we have been working, implementing these strategies. The action plan of December 2018 is basically the following element that focus on the implementation of such a strategy, and recently we have also published the European Democracy Action Plan that basically highlight the future strategy, what we'll do in the next upcoming years. So what are the pillars of this strategy? But certainly there are several pillars. As I said, disinformation is a multifaceted approach that requires a multi-stakeholder participation to deal with the problem. And there is a clear need to involve the online platform to tackle the problem of disinformation, because we all know that although disinformation is not new, it's there since the civilization started. The technologies that are behind the platform, the research engines, the social media, have somehow given the opportunity to malicious actors to implement very sophisticated and successful disinformation campaigns. So the first pillar of our action was to create a dialogue with the platform and to convince them to come up with a code of practice, which they did and was signed in September 2018, to tackle the problem of disinformation. And then within this code of practice, the platform somehow agree to work on specific issue, like the ads that are delivered in web pages that are purveyors of disinformation, transparency of political ads, the use of fake accounts and bots for the amplification of disinformation campaign, the importance of empowering the user in order to recognize disinformation campaign from and also to have access to authoritative sources. And last but not least, also the importance of giving researchers and fact checkers access to data so that they can do their job, and so that also society can be more aware of the problem and can develop a better solution to the problem. So this, I would say, so far has been the one of the greatest I would say achievement, although there are a lot of shortcomings, but certainly the code of practice was a premiere in the world. Nobody has developed such a code elsewhere than Europe. The code, in fact, is valid only for Europe. The signatories basically implemented the code only in Europe, although there are other regions of the world that are interested in having the code implemented there. So, as I said, it was a great first achievement, but it's not enough. And we have seen the danger of disinformation during the pandemic and the infodemic related to the pandemic, how dangerous disinformation can be, not only for the democratic process, but also for the health of the citizens. So it's necessary to do something more. We have issued a staff working document in September assessing the code of practice, and we have identified important shortcomings to the implementation, to the code and to the implementation of the code. And then the European Democracy Action Plan that I mentioned at the beginning, it's present a plan in order to improve the code. So the Commission will issue guidance that should help the signatory of the code of practice to improve the code in order to extend the number of signatory, fix some issues related again to the use of fake accounts and bots, to the need to give prominence to authoritative sources, to the need of somehow giving the user the possibility to have access to trustworthy indicators, the need to improve the effort in reducing the financial support through ads that can be displayed on third-party web pages that are purveyors of disinformation, and also to increase the transparency regarding political ads. And last but not least, the need of really implementing a framework that allows researchers to have access to relevant data for doing relevant research on disinformation. We know that there is being for a lot of complaint from the research community that I suppose here is well represented about the lack of data that they have access to. impede to make meaningful research on relevant issue related to disinformation. So these in broad strokes are the fixes that we are looking for in the next version of the code of practice. And overall, we need also to create a solid framework for monitoring the implementation of the code and the assessment of the impact of the code. So this will be a key action for the future, is to create such a framework for monitoring. So this is one part of our strategy. The other big part of our strategy is the support that we are providing to the research community, to the fact-checking community, in order for the research community to develop tools like the one that We Verified is developing, that other projects in the past have developed. And I want to remind here that we started in 2013 to finance the first project that were looking to how to verify information on the internet. So it's somehow we saw the problem, and the community, the research community, saw the problem coming up many years ago, almost a decade ago. This funding has been, I would say, quite generous in the past. We will maybe talk later about the future. But in addition to the funding to the research community, we have another, I would say, big project, which will also take quite some time to be fully implemented, which is the creation of the European Digital Media Observatory. We started with a first call for the creation of the central platform of the observatory, and now this observatory is operational, or has started its operation in June 2020. There is we want this organization, this observatory, to be completely independent from the Commission, although we are funding it. So this observatory has created a board which is completely independent from the Commission and from any public authorities, which will somehow shape up the future of the observatory. And also, the observatory will provide with a technological platform for fact-checking and research, which should support joint fact-checking activity, joint research at the European level. But this is not all, because without real work on the ground, and when I mean work on the ground, I mean I refer to fact-checking, analysis of disinformation campaign, and exposure of disinformation campaign to the public, our effort will be meaningless. So that's why we started to finance the creation of 6 national hubs, around 6 national hubs. We have a budget of 9 million for about 6 national hubs. We have closed the call for proposal at the beginning of November, and we are now evaluating the proposal through a panel of independent experts. So when we launch these hubs, I suppose in end of spring 2021 or summer 2021, we will have an EDMO that will not only have the central platform operational, but will also have national hubs that will start to detect and analyze disinformation campaign at national level, and they will start to work together in order also to to work on common issues, because we very often acknowledge that disinformation campaign are very similar across Europe and across the world. Similar narratives are let's say tailor-made to the national information ecosystem, but very often they use they have the same structure. So if we broaden knowledge about this disinformation campaign, it's easier to stop them before they create any harm. And so this is in broad stroke what we are doing, and our intention, of course, is not to limit our effort to have only 6 hubs for the observatory. Is to have hubs all over Europe. So this is, of course, our long-term goal. We are seeking funding, and I'm pretty sure we will be able to secure funding for the future. So, Kalina, I would stop here, unless you want to hear more. You can, of course, ask me questions, but I think we will have time during the panel to discuss other issues.
Yes, of course. Thank you, Alberto. I would like to just follow up with one question to you at this point in time, because you mentioned about the future. Just in a few, briefly, if you could outline a little bit about how do you think this future will look in terms of going forwards funding in Horizon Europe for this type of work?
Yes, of course. We are starting a new framework program, which is called Horizon Europe. And we are, of course, seeking money to support more research on disinformation, and in particular, again, on developing tools and systems that support the media ecosystem in fighting the disinformation, support also possibly citizens in fighting disinformation. So I cannot say much because, of course, the program is not yet public. Unfortunately, there is not yet an overall agreement on the budget for the next 7 years. But what I can say is that we are looking also to fund more fundamental research. We have been focusing on innovation in particular in the future, but we realize that we need to do more effort also on fundamental research, because the techniques of those ones that are malicious, of the malicious actor, are becoming more and more sophisticated. So we need also to keep up with those, and therefore we will need more basic research, I would say. And as I said before, we are also, and this has been published recently, we intend also to with Digital Europe and with Horizon Europe to finance a media data space. And although the aim of the media data space is to support innovation and creation of new business model in the for the digital transformation of the media sector, I believe there will be also business opportunity for those one working on the disinformation phenomenon. So the idea is to have with Digital Europe to launch this infrastructure, to deploy this infrastructure with the help of the industry, and then to have the research project financed through Horizon Europe, developing new tools that they can be integrated later on in this digital infrastructure. So this is again a quick summary of our future ideas, for the futures, and we can discuss this later if needed.
Thank you very much, Alberto. This is perfect introduction to the rest of the panel. And specifically the issue of data access, I think, is difficult for many researchers across Europe, but I think it's particularly difficult also for researchers in the Balkans, because I think the platforms are generally more forthcoming towards collaborations with main Western countries than they are with Eastern European research centers. At least this seems to be kind of my experience. But please allow me to introduce now Professor Nicoleta Corbu from SNSPA in Romania, who will tell us actually about their experience and research in Romania on disinformation. Thank you, Nicoleta. Over to you.
Okay, thank you. I hope you can see my presentation. what I want to do in the few minutes that I am allowed to speak in this panel is to briefly present you the research center that I coordinate at our university, SNSPA, in English, National University of Political Studies and Public Administration in Bucharest, Romania, and then refer to the some of the results that we got in our studies conducted on disinformation effects. And without further ado, let me tell you a few things about our institutional background. So I am the head of the Center for Research in Communication, that is the largest research center in my university. You can see here the labs that are affiliated with this research center. I am the head of the Media Studies Lab, in which we have been conducting for the past 5 years projects related to how the new information environment has changed, especially with a focus on political communication, effects of hate speech in social media, fake news effects related to the new information system, and populist political communication in Europe. This is part of a cost action that has been a huge project that ended recently. And with another research center in my college, actually we are conducting another research on fake news effects, which we were able to change the focus due to the pandemic, and we are actually focusing now on health disinformation related to vaccination. We are now in the pre-testing phase with that. Maybe we'll have time to discuss that later. But now I want to present quickly results of research that we conducted 1.5 years ago that was focused on effects of fake news, because I think there's a lot of talking about how to address fake news, and also addressing them means knowing what kind of effects they might be able to do. 2 years ago, when we started this project, actually, we're very much focused again on political disinformation effects. And just to have a general outlook of that, we are looking for persuasion and virality effects of various kinds of fake news related to the political disinformation, and to what extent these effects are moderated by the level of education and government approval, because we were in political context. This is very much rooted in the Romanian context, and so I am very much in favor of doing comparative research, because you never know if this is very much related to the context of the national background or can be generalized to other countries as well. So what we did a national survey in which we embedded an experimental design. The design looked like this. We basically built a sort of typology of fake news that has 3 main criteria: facticity, high and low, intention to deceive, and valence. Valence was related to what has been called hyper-partisan news, that is a way of framing political issues in a way that is not always false, but can be misleading in various ways. This is just to have a sense of how the stimuli or the treatment in the experiment condition looked like. So they framed the Prime Minister at the time discussing the increase of the economic growth in Romania. So we also had conditions in which we alter the data to make it as a parody or satire. And just let me show you briefly the main results, of course, with not many details. What is the most important result that we got is that grossly fabricated data has no effect, but rather soft way of manipulating the data in both the negative or positive way could lead to persuasion effects, sometimes with a boomerang effect for negative manipulation. That is, again, I'm referring to the hyper-partisan news. And I think this is particularly important because nowadays, at least in Romania, but I know for a fact that we are not the only country in which this is happening, the very polarized media landscape leave no space for objective, by-the-book journalist routines. So this is the reason why even more that kind of effects might be of interest when thinking of way of debunking information. So the other part of that was related to what the literature calls the third-person effect, which is basically saying that people believe that they are not as much influenced by the media, but others are. In this context, what we wanted to see was to what extent people believe that they might be able to detect fake news, to what extent they believe their close friends or family are able to detect fake news, and to what extent they believe people in general, that is distant others, how we call them, are able to detect fake news. And as you can see, this is just a general overview. We measured that on a scale of 1 to 7, and the results show that people always place themselves above the middle of the scale, their close friends and family on the middle of the scale, and people in general below the middle of the scale. That is, they believe that people can be gullible and they can be duped by the media, by the fake news and the misleading information, but not themselves. This is particularly important because I think it's very important, and Denis is going to definitely talk about that, to have fact-checking tools. But I think because of that kind of third-person effect, which we have been verifying since in 5 different studies, including on adolescents, and it is always confirming that it is there and it is there to stay. So before actually trying to find ways in which to fight this information using fact checkers, we need to make people aware that everybody is actually vulnerable when faced with misleading information. And one particular reason why the people are vulnerable is that because we are always inclined to what is called selective exposure, to actually select that information that confirm our prior beliefs, values, opinions, and so on and so forth. And this is the reason why whenever the misleading information is actually crossing our way, then it means that we can all become vulnerable regardless of what we may think of ourselves and of others. This is just a general overview for people who are interested in looking into what we are actually doing at CNSPA in the research center. And maybe we'll have time later on to discuss more about what we are actually doing now, that is looking into conspiracy theories related to the coronavirus, vaccinations, and stuff like that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Nicoletta. This was really exciting and interesting. And yes, I'm very much looking forward to the discussion in the end, if time allows. So next, I would like to introduce our next speaker, Zlatina Marinova. She's from Stirma AI in Bulgaria, trading as Ontotext, and she's the coordinator of the We Verify project. So in her talk, you will see Alberto already mentioned about how similar narratives are circulating around Europe, and you will see how We Verify is trying to address this and how it can build tools to help fact checkers to semi-automatically cross-check whether whether the current narrative they're verifying has already been debunked by a fact checker, for example, in another country. Truly Media is also developing the, We Verify is also developing the Truly Media platform, which Alberto mentioned as well in the context of EDMAR. So without further ado, please allow me to introduce Zlatina. Thank you.
Thank you, Kalina. Thanks for the introduction. I hope you can see my screen now. Okay. So yeah, you heard that I'm going to present briefly the focus and some of the outcomes of the We Verify project, which is kindly funded by the European Commission as part of the Horizon 2020 program and the specific calls on disinformation. This project is combining the efforts of researchers, verification experts, and technology organizations in providing different methods and tools for helping fighting disinformation. So I'm here representing Sirma Yaik, Trading is Onto Text, which is the coordinator of the project, and we are also a technical partner developing some of the tools for the disinformation fight. So let me start my presentation. Sorry, yeah. So one of the main objectives is to provide tools to journalists and fact checkers that can help them collaboratively tackle the problem of disinformation, and using cross-modal tools and methods for helping their work in identifying fake content online. Here we present Truly Media, which actually was an existing tool when the project started, but is currently being further enhanced and developed to integrate results of the project and to enhance its functionalities to help journalists first organize content, first collect content from different sources, being Facebook, Twitter, but also other social media and web pages and so on. Then organizing this content into different disinformation investigations that can be shared between verification experts, and also helping in the verification process by using different tools, some of which are developed within the project, to help, for example, analyze a particular image or a particular text that it has been shared online to identify whether it is tampered with or it shares some false claims. The other tool that is already actually widely used and is first developed as part of the INVIT project, which is also a European funded project, is the INVIT We Verify verification plugin. You will hear more about this plugin from my colleague Denise So from AFP. So here I will quickly only present some interesting functionalities that were developed as part of the project. One of them is the social network analysis, which allows visual exploration of disinformation networks. In this example, you can see that this is the network created automatically in relation to the hypercapnia claim that was spreading online, so related to the effects of wearing a mask and leading to hypercapnia. This network can be further analyzed by the users to, with the help of our tools, to identify particular communities that help in sharing this disinformation online. The user can zoom in and look into different groups that have been identified as clusters. In this case, some of them are politicians, some are others, and then this can help the verification expert to see who are the main who are the main actors that help in spreading disinformation. Another interesting feature that is developed within the project is the assistant, which is a tool that aims to help both journalists, fact checkers on the one hand, and on the other citizens which are not so familiar with the process of debunking particular claim, but also help them in their attempt to look into the details of, for example, a particular a post they come across in their social media stream. In this example, you can see a Facebook post being analyzed to find out which is the text, what is the image being shared. You can see it down there. And you can already see a warning that the content has been flagged. So this is one thing that can tell the user to be careful. The user is then also suggested some potential tools that can help in analyzing this image. For example, the forensic tools that are being created within the project. And on the other hand, we have the integration with a database that we are creating in the project for containing already debunked information, already debunked claims, and known fakes of videos and images. So in this case, the search in this database will actually return a debunk, for example, by full fact, which shows that this picture has been proven to be false. In this database of known fakes, we are further breaking down the information into interesting appearances. So where does this claim originally appear on this Facebook post, and what is the debunking article done by full fact, so the user can follow our links and see the actual debunking article published there. Just quickly to tell you that this database of known fakes also provides a search interface that can help both journalists and fact checkers and researchers to look into its content and see what are debunks related, for example, to COVID or a different topic. And also we provide an overview of the content of the database in terms of what are the sources, the authors, and the languages that we cover in it. This is a very, very brief presentation, but I think this caps my time. So thank you for your attention. If you're interested in following the project, please do so on Twitter. And of course, you can visit our website. Thank you.
Thank you, Zlatina. That was great, really interesting. So as Zlatina mentioned, we have the honor of having AFP as the fact checker here on the panel as well. This is Denis Tessot, and he will tell us some more about the fact-checking operations that they are in the process of setting up in the Balkans. So over to you, Denis. Thank you. Denis, if you're speaking, I don't think.
Yes, sorry. Yes. So I'm going to talk about what AFP is doing in terms of fact-checking in the Balkans and about the InVid plugin quickly. So AFP is one of the top 3 world news agency active in 200 countries. We are the main news agency in Europe because the 2 others are Associated Press in the States and Reuters, who is now British and Canadian. We have a network of more than 2,000 journalists of 80 nationalities, and we are doing now fact-checking in 80 countries around the world. So this is where we are doing fact-checking in the world, mostly within the Facebook journalism project and what is called the Facebook third-party fact-checking network. But we have started also to fact-check with TikTok, for instance. So we are trying to fact-check also with other platforms. So this has been done in only 3 years. We started in 2017 after starting in the French presidential elections in a project called Crosscheck, and it has expanded very, very rapidly. And we are fact-checking in the Balkans for many months now. In the former Yugoslavia, we have this fact-checking blog called Činjenice. And this is an article from yesterday. And there is a specific section on disinformation on Balkans, but also disinformation about Europe and the rest of the world. More recently, we launched also in Romania with another blog called Verificat here, and it is active since a couple of months now. And soon we have in the roadmap also we are going to deploy fact-checking operations in Bulgaria. And of course we are for decades in the region with offices, AFP offices in the Balkans for many years, and reporting about all the events and journalists, I mean media events in any kind of domains like sports, politics and economy and society for many years already. Coming to the InVid We Verify plugin, this verification plugin was launched as was said before during the InVid project, and we are maintaining it and enhancing it with new tools within We Verify. The plugin is a facilitator for AFP for the expansion of AFP in fact-checking, because it allows to quickly master some basic tools for doing verification. And especially we are using the big data of the image reverse search engines to be able to retrieve whether an image or a video has been published in the past. And most of the fake news are in fact images or decontextualized images from the past, which are just put back on social networks, on the platforms. So we are increasing the number of search engines that can be triggered from the plugin. And our last prototype that you can see here, which is already available for fact checkers, and is integrating, for instance, the similarity search to another image search engine, which is the database of non-fakes that was presented just before by Slatina. So it allows also to retrieve whether one particular image has been already involved in a fake situation in another by another debunking operation. The plugin is used now by 39,000 users worldwide in 191 countries. There is no Balkan segmentation on the Google Analytics, but you have on the left side the Eastern Europe, and on the right side the Southern Europe, and you will see that it is already used in several countries, in Romania, in Bulgaria, in Slovakia, in Serbia, Kosovo, Croatia, Albania, etc. And it's increasing over time at a pace of about 100 new installation per day. And thank you for your attention, and get in touch with us if you want more information about it.
Thank you, Denis. This is great, especially because Facebook, for example, is relying on third-party fact checkers like AFP in order to effectively to better moderate and label disinformation on their platform. So it's really encouraging to know that finally there will be such operation for Bulgaria, and also Romania is ongoing, because I think this will help, in fact, reduce significantly, especially the impact of Facebook disinformation on the citizens in the region, hopefully. So next on the panel, we have Todor Galev from an NGO, which is the Center for Study of Democracy. Without further ado, I will allow him to present their work. It's really exciting, specifically looking at foreign disinformation in the region. Over to you, Todor. Thank you.
Thank you, Kalina. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. First of all, I would like to say a few words about my organization. Center for the Study of Democracy is a not-for-profit organization registered in Bulgaria in early 1990s, so just after the collapse of communism. And we have a strong experience since then in EU and internationally funded research and consultancy projects. We work on quite different topics, and one of them is foreign influence and disinformation. And actually, we do have 4 distinct departments. I'm working at the economic department, where the major part of the work on foreign influence and disinformation is done. But actually, this is one of the topics where all the 4 departments of CSD are collaborating on in a multidisciplinary and synchronized fashion. So here are some of the reports and publications that we have done in the on the topic of foreign influence and disinformation. We started with the Kremlin playbook in 2016, when we looked at the Russian economic influence in South and Eastern Europe. Actually, at that time, nobody wants to speak about this, but only few years after that, as you know, I would say this became a very hot topic. In working on foreign influence and specifically on Russian influence in Europe, we came across the topic of propaganda and disinformation. As you can see, our work was quite well recognized and received. Actually, we do have briefings for the US Senate, for the US Commission on Security and Cooperation in Europe, which is a federal commission of the, in the US. We do have briefings for the NATO headquarters in Brussels, for the German Chancellery, for the Foreign Affairs Ministries of Germany, France, Austria, and some others, and for many, many different foreign embassies in the region and Europe at home. And in all of these briefings and our research that we use to produce the results and the conclusions and the recommendations for the briefings, the disinformation topic and propaganda topic was one of the major that people have been interested in. So in terms of Russian influence and disinformation, we found that it dates back to 19th and 2000s. The tools that have been used are state capture instruments, media propaganda and disinformation, and geopolitical pressure. Through the media propaganda disinformation, actually, the foreign governments reinforce the governance deficits in our countries, especially in South and Eastern Europe, using combination of economic and political power. What we found is that expansion of Russian direct and indirect support to both Russia-owned and domestic pro-Russian media over the last, I would say, already 10, not 5 years, have been done in 2 ways. Internally in Russia through regulatory mechanism, but abroad, so in Europe in general, through employing the strategy of what is called in literature diffusion proofing, so counterbalancing Western coverage, Western media coverage with the pro-Russian twist. What we found is that there are certain links between disinformation and media ownership or control on media. Disinformation is used as soft power tool of the foreign influence in Europe. Again, there are links between foreign economic footprint and disinformation in Central and Eastern Europe, and this is a bit different than the first bullet about the disinformation and media ownership, because as I'll show you in a while, foreign economic footprint often presents some indirect or hidden links between the disinformation campaigns or propaganda campaigns and economic actors in our countries, and also communication strategies that have been coordinated and obviously controlled centrally by, in this case, Russian government. So one of the examples is here. You can see that the Russian direct economic footprint in the Bulgarian media sector accounts for only about 6 million euro, while the indirect economic footprint, or these are companies that are controlled by the others, account for another 2 million. And in addition, there are a third group of companies that are non-media companies, but are related to the first two groups and controlled by them. And very often, exactly these third type of companies are used for agenda setting in the media through, for example, advertising budgets. So media ownership is only one and less used tools in disinformation and media capture processes in our region. Disinfo campaigns, what we found is that disinfo campaigns engage large community of content creators and providers, starting from RSS aggregator sites, small and medium online news platforms, independent journalists, individual bloggers and opinion makers, and so on and so on. What we found, for example, is that what we called mushroom websites. So small websites are starting to reproduce a given news piece, and then this went to bigger websites, local and regional media, and after 1 or 2 days, it went already into the national media. So we do this in partnership with various stakeholders. I would like just to outline here our partnership with EU Stratcom task force. We are doing some fact checking for them with some of the DGs of the European Commission, but also the Joint Research Center and the United States State Department. As well as, of course, we can't do this without the help and support of and partnership with technological companies. We are proud that we work with some of the companies that have been already mentioned here, like OnToText, ATC, Athens Technology Center, and so on. And here I want just to show you some results from a very recent research, which is still not published actually. This is done in partnership with technological company called Sensica, and we try to monitor the disinformation coverage or the coverage of specific topics and narratives by 4 types of media selected in advance from 8 countries. One media which is owned by Russia formally, one media which is pro-Russian, one media which is a partisan outlet, like in this case, Bulgarian Ataka newspaper. So this is the newspaper of the Bulgarian far-right party Ataka, and one media that we take as a kind of independent normal media. And as you can see from this example here, the trends in this case in the coverage of Crimea-related news by the Russian formally owned media, in this case Newsfront, are quite bigger than for the others. And but interestingly, they follow absolutely the same trends during the time from 2017 to 2019. So it means that pro-Russian media actually what we call twist and duplicate the normal media coverage of certain topics, but with pro-Russian twist, with their narratives that are common for them. Here's another example. It's about the coverage of the topic of Western Balkan EU accession in the context of the Bulgarian EU presidency. And as you can see, because this is not a topic which is of interest of the pro-Russian media, you can see that this is the red, their coverage is much smaller. The same, for example, for Serbian market. When it comes to something which is in interest and part of the pro-Russian narratives, in this case, Kosovo and Crimea, so comparison between the Kosovo and Crimea, which is used by Russian propaganda. The pro-Russian media have much bigger publication activity than the others. And another one, which is about Russia and EU, again, it's evident that pro-Russian media are exploiting these narratives much more than the normal media. These are just in short some of the findings and conclusions that we have. Just to mention some narratives that we spot as part of the foreign, I would not say Russian, because in last 2 years we work mostly on foreign, not only Russian, but also Turkish, Chinese, disinformation in the region. Related to the EU, and these are actually common narratives that you can find in every one country in the Southeast Europe, and this is very telling. So one of the narratives is about the EU dictate over the EU member states, but also over the accession countries. Another one is EU as a threat to national sovereignty. Another very common narrative is EU as destroyer of traditional values as anti-identities. And here, all the talks about gender and Istanbul Convention and so on and so on. Another is EU as protector, EU's of weak political union, which in comparison to the strong Eurasian Union established by Russia and so on. So I would finish with this: the similarities that we found in the propaganda and disinformation campaigns across the region are much more than the difference, I would say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Todor. Okay, so we've got, unfortunately, only like 3 or 4 minutes. I was hoping we'll have a bit more. It's a bit difficult to share virtually. So anyway, let's try to go through a few questions very quickly. If people can answer just with 1 or 2 sentences, I know that's very hard. So my first question to Alberto actually is, do you think that the community of code of practice implementation by the platforms is equally enforced or equally implemented across the countries, for example, across Germany and the UK as compared to the Balkans? Or do you think the Balkans are lagging behind in terms of...
Indeed, it's also an outcome of our assessment, and one of the major shortcoming is the fact that there is no uniformity of implementation of the code across the member states. I don't have now the picture, that detailed pictures, member state per member state, but certainly there is no uniformity. So this is one of the issues that we want to solve in the future, and we will certainly ask platform to ensure same treatment for all the member states.
That's great. Thank you very much for the clarification. So next, a joint question to Zlatina and Denis. It's exciting to see all of this new technology in support of verification and fact-checking. Could you say like a couple of sentences each about what do you think will take the effort to adapt the tools to languages in the Balkans?
Well, we are already looking into potential collaborations with local journalists and the local technical organizations to tackle this, researchers also, sorry. So I think that within the We Verify project, we won't be able to pursue this completely because adding more content or processing regional content will be an extra effort. So we'll be looking into other potential sources of funding, be it national or European-wide, to cover this. And of course, we'll be looking into collaborating with everybody interested in this.
Thank you. Denis, do you have something to add?
Sorry. We have observed three main drivers for the growth of the adoption of the plugin, the verification plugin. One is the elections with high stakes. Another one is the recommendation by fact-checking experts, and the other is obviously the localization in new languages. So the plugin is available right now in French, English, and Spanish, and France is the first country, Spain is the 5th country. We are using all Latin America in Spanish as well, and USA is the 2nd country now with the recent elections. On top of India. India is the 3rd country, it used to be the 2nd one. So localizing in new languages is key also for adoption, and especially for adoption for more people than experimented fact checkers.
Fantastic, thank you. So I would like to close this panel with one last question towards Nicoletta, which is, I would love if you can say a little bit more about your research on disinformation narratives around COVID in the region. Thank you.
Thank you. I will try to be as brief as possible. So we conducted several surveys this year about the conspiracy theories and things related recently to vaccination. And results show that actually belief in conspiracy theories plays an important part in predicting people's willingness to get vaccinated. And this is the 2nd most important predictor after trust in institutions. Of course, immediately after the pandemic started, we have seen this rally around the flag effect that people trusted more institutions, which is now going on the descendant trend. But leaving aside the trust in institutions, again, belief in conspiracy theories tend to predict to a high degree people's willingness to get vaccinated. That is, the more they trust the narratives related to either vaccination and coronavirus conspiracy theory, the less likely they are to get vaccinated. So this has huge implications, but I will stop here. I know we are behind time.
Thank you very much, Nicoletta. So on that note, I'd like to thank all the panelists, and I'd like to say also briefly that the Gate Institute will be organizing a series of webinars where we actually will be going in a lot more depth in all of these topics, and some of our first invited speakers will be those on the panel to actually do an in-depth technical and scientific presentations of their work. So this is not the end of it, this is just the beginning. Please follow us on Twitter and through other social media channels, and we look forward to welcome you again. Thank you very much and have a lovely day. Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Blagodaria, Kalina.
Thank you very much for your participation. So I would like to thank you all for being part of GATE event today, and my special gratitude to all moderators, keynote speakers, panelists for their interesting insights and inspiring discussions. And by bringing different stakeholders, our partners and collaborators from scientific community, government, business, we showed how big data and artificial intelligence can tackle societal challenges, including COVID crisis, which were covered with almost all panels. And I hope we will enjoy the first Big Data and AI Forum of Gate Institute, and it will lay a foundation for many valuable further collaborations and partnerships. And as Kalina said, it's just the beginning, it's just first year, and a lot more will come. And to have special workshops dedicated to specific topics. We just start discussing now, but there's a lot more to do in the field. And from the whole GATE team, I would like to wish you to enjoy upcoming holidays and stay safe and healthy.